somewhere, between what is real and what should never be remembered, there exists a place where stories are buried, not written in books, not spoken aloud, but passed from fear to fear. These stories were never meant for you. They were locked away, forgotten, sealed behind silence. Every voice you hear belongs to someone who listened too long. Tonight, you will hear what they heard, and once it enters your mind, it doesn't leave. This is your final warning. Welcome to the stories that watch you back.
There was only one road left that led into Blackwood County. It wasn't on most maps anymore. The asphalt cracked like old skin beneath the tires in Ethan Cross's car as he drove past the rusted welcome sign. The headlights washed over peeling paint just long enough to read the words before darkness swallowed them again. Welcome to Blackwood County, established 1791. No population number, no motto, just the year. The forest closed in on both sides of the road, tall Appalachian pines leaning inward as if listening. Fog crept low along the ground, slithering between tree trunks, curling over fallen leaves that hadn't been disturbed in years. Ethan hadn't planned on stopping here. His GPS had died 20 miles back, the radio turning to static right after. Every station, gone. Even his phone showed no service, the screen dimming as if the place itself drained power. That was when he noticed something unsettling. The road signs. Every mile marker he passed read the same number, mile 13. Again and again and again. Ethan swallowed and tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He told himself it was just stress. Grief had a way of bending perception. After all, he was driving to settle his late grandmother's estate, a woman who had never spoken about her childhood, except to say, "Some towns don't die, they just learn how to hide." The car suddenly lurched. Ethan slammed the brakes as something large darted across the road. The tires screamed, the engine stalled. Silence rushed in, thick and absolute. Then he saw it, at the edge of the headlights, a figure, tall, still, watching, not moving, not blinking. Ethan's heart hammered as he leaned forward. The figure stood just beyond the reach of the light, its outline distorted by fog. It looked human, but wrong in subtle ways. Too tall, too thin, its head tilted slightly as if studying him. "Hello?" Ethan called out. The word felt foolish the moment it left his mouth. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it stepped back, retreating into the trees with unnatural smoothness, vanishing between the trunks without a sound. No snapped branches, no rustling leaves, just gone. The engine car coughed back to life on its own. Ethan didn't question it. He drove, faster now. The forest began to thin, revealing scattered houses, old farm homes slumped under decades of neglect, windows dark, porches sagging. Some homes had chairs facing the road, empty, yet positioned as if someone had just stood up. Finally, the road curved downward into a valley, Blackwood County. A single street stretched through town, closed storefronts, a diner with lights still on, a gas station from another era, and above it all, a church on the hill. Its steeple pierced the fog like a black needle. The clock tower read 12:13. Ethan checked his watch. 12:13. The Blackwood diner buzzed with fluorescent light. It was the only building that looked alive. A bell chimed as Ethan stepped inside. Warm air hit his face, thick with the smell of grease and old coffee. Red vinyl booths lined the walls. A few patrons sat scattered throughout, too quiet, too still. They all turned to look at him, every single one. A woman behind the counter smiled without warmth. "You're late," she said. Ethan frowned. "Late for what?" She didn't answer. Coffee appeared in front of him before he realized he'd sat down. The liquid was already cold. He noticed then, none of the diners were eating. They just stared. One man's reflection in the window didn't match his movements. Another blinked sideways. A child sat in a booth alone, swinging his legs, but his shadow moved independently, lagging behind. "You passing through?" the waitress asked. "Yes," Ethan said quickly. "Just car trouble." She leaned closer. "No one passes through Blackwood." Her eyes caught the light. For a split second, they reflected red. Ethan pushed back from the booth. "I need directions out," he said. The diner fell silent. The waitress straightened, her smile gone. "You're Margaret Cross's grandson." Ethan froze. "How do you know that?" A murmur rippled through the diner. The child stopped swinging his legs. The waitress wiped her hands slowly. "Your blood remembers this place." The lights flickered. Outside, the fog thickened. "You should have stayed gone," someone whispered. The bell above the door rang on its own, and far off, from the hilltop church, a bell tolled once. Ethan left the diner, despite their eyes following him. The church loomed larger with every step uphill. The bell rope swayed gently, though there was no wind. The doors were open. Inside, candles burned. Fresh. A voice echoed through the nave. "You came back." An elderly man stood at the altar, dressed in black. His eyes were pale, almost colorless. "You carry the curse," he said softly, "and the key." Behind him, the stained glass depicted something unnatural. Not angels, not saints. Figures with fangs.
The church doors closed behind Ethan with a final, echoing thud. The sound didn't fade, it lingered, vibrating through the stone floor, through his bones. "You were born marked," the old man said, stepping away from the altar, "long before you took your first breath." Candles flared brighter as he passed, flames bending toward him like they recognized their master. "My name is Father Caldwell," he continued, "and Blackwood County exists because your ancestors made a choice." He gestured toward the stained glass. The figures seemed to move now, elongated shadows stretching across the pews. "In 1791, Caldwell said, this valley was starving. Winter came early, crops failed, children vanished in the woods." He paused. Then something answered their prayers. The floor beneath the altar shifted, stone groaned against stone as a hidden stairway opened downward, releasing a cold wind that smelled of iron and damp earth. "They fed it," Caldwell whispered, "and it fed them back." Ethan stared into the darkness below. "How do I fit into this?" he asked. Caldwell's pale eyes locked onto him. "You were the exit strategy." The stairs descended far deeper than the church should allow. Stone walls wept moisture. Symbols carved into the rock pulsed faintly, reacting to Ethan's presence. His skin prickled as he passed them. At the bottom lay a chamber, circular, ancient. At its center stood a stone basin, darkened with age. Surrounding it were coffins, not wooden but carved from the earth itself, their lids etched with names: Cross, Caldwell, Blackwood. Ethan's stomach tightened. "This is the covenant chamber," Caldwell said, "where blood sealed the town's survival." One coffin began to vibrate, slowly. "No," Ethan whispered. The lid slid aside with a grinding sound. Something inside breathed. The coffin lid fell away completely. A figure rose, tall, pale, beautiful in a way that felt wrong. Its eyes opened, deep crimson, reflecting the candlelight like polished glass. "The blood returns," it said.
Its voice echoed inside Ethan's skull, bypassing his ears entirely. Caldwell knelt. "So it has," he replied. Ethan tried to move. He couldn't. The vampire stepped closer, steadying him with fascination. "You carry mercy," it said softly. "Your grandmother begged for it." "My grandmother is dead," Ethan said through clenched teeth. The creature smiled. "No one truly leaves Blackwood. The town survives on balance," Caldwell explained. "No slaughter, no exposure. We feed carefully." The vampire circled Ethan. "You were meant to end this," it said. "A bloodline severed, a town finally allowed to die." Its smile faded, but you came back. The vampire stopped inches from Ethan's face, which means the covenant renews. A blade appeared in Caldwell's hand, silver. "You will give blood," Caldwell said. "Not enough to kill, enough to bind." Ethan's instincts screamed. The blade cut his palm. Blood dripped into the basin. The symbols ignited. The ground trembled. Far above, Blackwood County woke up. The church bell rang again, once, twice, 13 times. Across town, doors opened. The diner lights flickered brighter, windows unlocked. The people of Blackwood stepped outside calmly, lining the streets like a procession. They knew the ritual. They always had. Ethan watched through the church doors as figures emerged from shadows, fast, graceful, silent. Feeding night, controlled, necessary. Caldwell placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You'll learn to live with it," he said, "just like your grandmother did." Ethan looked out at the town and realized something worse than fear. They weren't screaming. They were relieved. "You still have a choice," the vampire whispered. Ethan turned back. The creature's red eyes softened. "Stay," it said. "Guide us. Spare them pain." The church shook. "Or burn it all down." Ethan clenched his bleeding hand. Some towns didn't die. They waited. And Blackwood was hungry.
Ethan didn't remember falling asleep. One moment, the church doors yawned open to a town standing in fog like a staged photograph, still, obedient, expectant. The next, he blinked awake on a wooden pew. Daylight pressed through stained glass in bruised colors, purples and sickly gold, as if the sun outside had been filtered through old smoke. Dust drifted in slow spirals. The candles from the night before were gone, or they had never been there. His palm throbbed where the blade had cut him. A thin line of dried blood curved across his skin like a small smile. He sat up too fast and the room tilted. The church was empty. No Father Caldwell, no crimson-eyed sleeper, no echo of voices in his skull. Just silence and the faint creak of the building settling, like the church itself was breathing. Ethan stumbled down the aisle. The doors opened easily. Outside, Blackwood County looked almost normal. Almost. The fog had retreated to the tree line. Birds called from somewhere unseen. A stray cat watched him from the steps with an expression that felt too intelligent. Then Ethan noticed the street. Every storefront was open. The diner sign glowed cheerfully. Curtains in homes moved as if people were bustling about. A woman swept her porch. 2 men carried crates into the general store. But all of it had a stiffness to it, like actors rehearsing normal life. As Ethan walked down the hill, he passed a small group chatting beside a mailbox. They stopped mid-sentence as he approached. Every head turned. Every smile appeared at the same time. "Morning," one man said. "Morning," the others echoed, perfectly in sync. Ethan kept walking. Behind him, the conversation resumed, also in sync, as if someone hit play again. He reached the diner and pushed through the door. The bell chimed. The same waitress was behind the counter. She smiled. "You're early." Ethan stared at her. "You said I was late last night." Her smile didn't move. "Did I?" He felt a chill crawl up his spine. Then she slid a cup of coffee toward him, already cold. And in the coffee's surface, Ethan saw a reflection that wasn't his, a tall figure behind him, watching. Ethan didn't turn around. If he turned around, it would be real. He sat at the counter. The waitress watched him like a statue that had learned to blink. "You look tired," she said. "I need to leave," Ethan replied, keeping his voice steady. "I'm just passing through." The diner went quiet. Quiet in the way a room goes quiet before bad news. From a booth near the window, a girl slid out and walked toward him. She looked 16 or 17, hoodie too big, hair falling over her face. Her hands were shoved deep into her pockets like she was hiding something. She didn't look up when she spoke. "Don't say that," she murmured. Ethan frowned. "Say what?" "I'm just passing through," she repeated, mimicking his tone with a sharp accuracy. Then she leaned closer, still not meeting his eyes. "That's how you get noticed." Ethan's mouth went dry. Noticed by who? The girl's shoulders tightened. The waitress's smile sharpened, almost imperceptibly. The girl whispered, "The ones who can smell lies." Ethan tried to laugh, but it came out wrong. "Who are you?" he asked. The girl hesitated, as if names were dangerous here. "Mara," she said finally. "And you shouldn't be in the diner right now." Ethan glanced around. The patrons had returned, scattered like chess pieces. Each one held a coffee cup. None of them drank. They were waiting. Mara slid something onto the counter, a folded paper, old, creased, smudged with charcoal, a map, a hand-drawn map of Blackwood County. On it, a circle was drawn around the church, another around the forest beyond town, and written in sharp letters, "The Feeding Grounds." Ethan looked up. Mara had stepped back. Her gaze finally lifted, just for a second. Her eyes weren't red, they were terrified. "Whatever happened last night," she whispered, "they think you agreed." Then she turned and walked out, the bell chiming once, too cheerful for the way the air in the diner suddenly felt colder. The waitress leaned in, voice gentle. "Finish your coffee," she said. Ethan didn't touch the cup. In the dark swirl of the liquid, the reflection behind him smiled. Father Caldwell's office smelled of old books, wax, and something medicinal. Ethan found him behind the church in a side building that looked like it had been attached as an afterthought. The door was unlocked, as if the town wanted him to enter. Caldwell sat at a desk with neat stacks of paper and a small radio that crackled with static even when turned off. He didn't look surprised to see Ethan. "You're awake," Caldwell said, as if Ethan had just returned from a nap. "What did you do to me?" Ethan demanded. "What happened last night?" Caldwell folded his hands. A covenant was renewed. "I didn't agree to anything." Caldwell's expression softened with something close to pity. "Agreement," he said, "is a luxury for people who don't inherit debts." Ethan slammed his palm on the desk, pain shooting through the cut. "I want to leave." "You can't," Caldwell replied gently. "Why?" Caldwell slid a photograph across the desk, an old picture, sepia-toned, a group of people outside the church, men in suspenders, women in long dresses, and there, standing in the center, was Ethan's grandmother, young, terrified, her hand held by a tall man whose face had been scratched out. "You think she ran," Caldwell said, tapping the photo, "but she was released." Ethan's throat tightened. Released by who? Caldwell looked toward the window. Outside, crows gathered on the church fence like black punctuation. "By the sleeper," Caldwell whispered, "because she promised something in return." Ethan stared at the scratched-out face. What did she promise? Caldwell's eyes returned to Ethan's hand. "She promised you." Ethan felt the room tilt again. "That's insane." Caldwell stood. His robe brushed the floor. "It's done," he said. "Tonight you'll witness the feeding grounds." Ethan stepped back. "No." Caldwell's voice remained calm, almost kind. "You want to understand Blackwood?" he asked. "Then you need to see what it costs." He opened a drawer and removed a small object wrapped in cloth. He unwrapped it carefully, a silver charm shaped like a thorned cross. "This will keep you safe," Caldwell said, offering it.
"Wear it." Ethan didn't take it. Caldwell held the charm out longer, then softly, "Refuse, and you'll learn what noticed means." Ethan thought of Mara's warning, the ones who can smell lies. He reached out and took the charm. It was cold, too cold. Caldwell smiled, and for the first time, Ethan noticed something impossible. Caldwell's reflection in the window behind him didn't move. Ethan left Caldwell's office with the charm hanging from his fingers like a condemned man holding his own key. Outside, he unfolded Mara's map. A narrow line marked a creek running behind town, feeding into the forest. A bridge was sketched in charcoal, crude but unmistakable. Ethan followed the path. The air changed as he moved away from the main street. The town noises dulled, even the birds seemed to stop. He reached the bridge. It was old wood reinforced with rusted metal plates. Beneath it, the creek flowed dark and slow, reflecting the sky like tarnished glass. There was something nailed to the bridge post, a small bundle of twigs tied with string, a charm, homemade, protective. Someone had carved words into the wood. "Don't look down." Ethan swallowed. He looked down. The water didn't reflect his face. It reflected a different place entirely, an underground chamber of stone, coffins in a circle, and something tall standing in the center. Then the water rippled. The reflection shifted. Now it showed Ethan hanging from the bridge upside down, blood dripping toward the creek. Ethan stumbled backward, heart lurching. The charm in his hand burned cold against his skin. A voice spoke from beneath the bridge. "You shouldn't do that." Ethan whipped around. Mara stood on the far side, hands in her hoodie pocket again. She looked paler than before. "You looked," she said, not accusing, just stating a fact, like marking a tally. Ethan exhaled shakily. "What is this place?" Mara glanced toward the forest. "A trap," she said. "A machine that turns people into offerings." Ethan frowned. "What are you?" Mara's jaw tightened. "A mistake," she whispered. "Like you." Then she stepped closer and finally looked him in the eyes. "If you want to survive tonight," she said, "you need to learn the rules." They sat on the bridge rail like kids skipping school, except the woods around them felt like a church for predators. Mara pulled her hands out of her hoodie pockets. On her wrists were faint marks, thin, pale lines like old restraints. Ethan stared. "Did they do that to you?" Mara shrugged, but her voice tightened. "Blackwood does something to everyone." She pointed at the charm in Ethan's hand. "That cross won't protect you," she said. "Not really. It's a leash." Ethan frowned. "Caldwell said it keeps me safe." Mara's laugh was short and humorless. "Caldwell says a lot of things." She held up 2 fingers. "Rule 1, don't run once the bell rings. Running makes you interesting." Ethan's stomach sank. Mara raised another finger.
Rule 2, don't bleed where they can smell it. Cover cuts. Don't act hurt. Don't act scared. Ethan looked at his palm. Mara leaned in closer. "And rule 3, she said softly, "if you see someone you love out there tonight." Ethan's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Mara's eyes flickered with something like grief. "I mean the town uses faces," she whispered. "It learns what you miss." Ethan thought of his grandmother, the photo, her terrified eyes. "What happens in the feeding grounds?" he asked. Mara looked away. "They feed," she said, "but the worst part isn't the feeding." Ethan waited. Mara finally spoke again, voice barely above the creek's slow murmur. "The worst part is how many people volunteer." They returned to town before dusk. Blackwood was busy in the same stiff, rehearsed way. People hanging lanterns, sweeping sidewalks, smiling too long at passers-by. Ethan noticed the subtle preparations. Curtains pinned open so windows faced the street. Porch lights tested and replaced. Red cloth draped inside the diner like it was decorating for a holiday. A holiday. Mara walked beside Ethan, hood up now. "They're setting the stage," she murmured. "For what?" "For tonight," she replied. "The feeding grounds isn't just a place. It's a ritual the town performs." Ethan's cut hand ached. He could feel his pulse in it, as if his blood was trying to crawl out. As they passed the general store, the owner stepped out holding a small wooden box. He opened it and offered it to Ethan politely. Inside were bandages, fresh, like they'd been waiting for him. Ethan stared. The owner smiled. "For your hand." Ethan didn't remember showing anyone his injury. Mara's voice tightened. "Take it." Ethan took the bandages. The owner nodded, satisfied, and went back inside. Ethan whispered, "How do they know?" Mara didn't answer right away. Then, Because something in this town is listening all the time, she said, and it hears your body louder than your words. Above them, the church clock struck. Not once, not twice, it struck 13 times, and every person in the street paused mid-motion to count. Ethan did too, without meaning to. When the final chime rang, everyone resumed moving at the same time, like puppets released from a string. Mara grabbed Ethan's sleeve. "Sun's going down," she said. "You need to decide what you are before night decides for you."
Dusk brought a new sound, a car engine. Ethan and Mara froze near the edge of town as headlights rolled in like curious eyes. A dusty sedan slowed by the welcome sign. A man stepped out, mid-30s, hoodie, backpack, phone held up. "Finally," he said to himself, "my GPS is—" His phone screen flashed and died. He tapped it, irritated. Ethan took a step forward. "Hey!" The man looked relieved. "Oh, thank God, someone lives here. Do you have—" He stopped, noticing the town's stillness, the way the streets seemed too quiet for open businesses. Mara whispered, "Don't!" But Ethan couldn't help it. "Turn around," Ethan said quickly. "Don't stay." The man blinked. "What? Why?" Behind him, the diner bell chimed, faint but clear. The man glanced toward the sound and smiled. Not his own smile, a practiced one. "Actually," the man said, voice suddenly calmer, "I think I will stay." Mara's face drained of color. Ethan felt his stomach drop, because the man's shadow on the ground moved before he did, stretching toward the forest like it couldn't wait. Mara grabbed Ethan's arm. "It's starting," she whispered. The first street lantern flickered to life, then another, a line of lights leading away from town, leading toward the trees, toward the feeding grounds, and the church bell began to ring. Slowly, 1, 2, 3. People emerged from their houses, not rushed, not forced. They walked as if heading to a town fair, lantern light catching faces that looked calm, even grateful. Some carried small offerings, jars of dark liquid, wrapped bundles, flowers that had no business blooming in winter air. Ethan watched a mother take her child's hand gently and guide him into the line. "Are they—" Ethan started. Mara nodded. "Volunteering," she said, "or pretending they are." The outsider joined the procession too, falling in as if he'd lived here all his life. Ethan looked at Mara. "We have to stop this." Mara's eyes flashed. "Stop it with what? A speech? A gun? You think the town doesn't have answers for violence?" Ethan clenched his jaw. "Then what do we do?" Mara hesitated, then pulled the hood back. "For tonight," she said, "we survive long enough to learn where the rules end." She reached into her pocket and held out something small, a matchbook, Blackwood Diner, printed on it. On the inside flap, someone had written, "If you want out, follow the smoke." Ethan stared. Smoke from where? Mara's expression turned grim. "From the old coal trail," she said. "That's where the feeding grounds really begin." The church bell rang again. 13. Ethan felt the charm around his neck grow colder, heavier, like a hand tightening. Mara grabbed Ethan's wrist. "Don't run," she reminded him. And together, they stepped into the lantern-lit line, moving toward the forest. The lantern-lit line left the last streetlight behind. The forest swallowed them whole. Tall trees closed in on both sides of the path, their branches knitting together overhead. The air smelled wrong, like wet stone and old smoke. Not fire, something older, buried. "This used to be a coal route," Mara whispered beside Ethan, "before the mines collapsed." Ethan felt the ground change beneath his feet. Gravel gave way to blackened soil that left faint smudges on his shoes. Ahead, thin gray wisps drifted upward from cracks in the earth. Smoke, but there was no heat, no fire, just cold vapor curling like breath from something sleeping underground.
Lantern light reflected in it, stretching shadows until they no longer matched the people casting them. Some shadows walked ahead of their owners, others lagged behind. Ethan noticed something worse. The line wasn't silent anymore. People were humming, low, soft, tuneless, not together, but gradually the sounds aligned, blending into a single droning note that made Ethan's teeth ache. "What are they singing?" he whispered. Mara didn't answer immediately. Then, reluctantly, "A lullaby. For who?" "For the ones who wake when we arrive." The smoke thickened. The charm at Ethan's neck pulsed once, like a heartbeat. The trail opened into a clearing. At first glance, it looked ordinary, just a shallow basin surrounded by trees. But then Ethan noticed the ground. It moved, not dramatically, subtly, rising and falling in slow, patient waves, breathing. Wooden posts circled the clearing, each carved with symbols Ethan recognized from beneath the church. Between them hung old lanterns and scraps of red cloth fluttering without wind. This was the feeding grounds. People stepped forward calmly, peeling away from the line to take places around the basin. Some knelt, some stood, some simply waited. Ethan's heart pounded. "Where do they come from?" he whispered. Mara's jaw tightened. From below. A sound rolled through the clearing, deep and resonant, like stone shifting far underground. The humming stopped. Silence pressed in. Then, a shape rose from the earth, not bursting, not clawing, emerging, tall and elegant, as if the ground had been shaped specifically to let it pass. Its skin was pale, reflecting lantern light like marble. Its eyes glowed faintly, not red this time, but amber, watchful. Another followed, then another. The sleepers had arrived. Ethan's breath caught as one lifted its head and inhaled deeply. "New blood," it said softly. Its gaze slid unerringly to him. Mara swore under her breath. The outsider stepped forward before anyone else could. His movements were smooth now, confident. He knelt. Ethan stared. "What is he doing?" Mara's voice was flat. "Being chosen." The sleeper closest to him crouched, studying the man's face like a collector examining a fragile artifact. "You came willingly," it said. The man smiled, still not his own. "I heard the town calling." A murmur rippled through the sleepers. Approval. The sleeper extended a hand, not to harm, but to touch the man's forehead gently. The man shuddered. Images flashed in Ethan's mind unbidden, memories bleeding through the air. Loneliness, debt, a need to belong. The sleeper withdrew its hand. "This one stays," it declared. Two figures in red cloth stepped forward and guided the man away, not toward the forest, but toward a stone opening at the edge of the basin. Ethan felt sick. "They're not feeding on him," he whispered. Mara nodded. "They're recruiting." Ethan swallowed. "What happens to the rest?" Mara didn't answer. She didn't have to. A scream shattered the stillness. A woman bolted from the line, panic finally winning over obedience. She ran toward the trees, lantern swinging wildly from her hand. Mara cursed. "No!" The ground reacted instantly. Shadows peeled themselves off the forest floor, moving faster than anything human. The woman barely made it 3 steps before something wrapped around her ankles. She fell, but there was no impact. The earth softened beneath her, swallowing sound, swallowing motion. Within seconds, the ground smoothed over again. No blood, no struggle, just absence. The sleepers watched with mild interest. "Waste," one murmured. The rest of the line tightened, fear rippling, but no one else ran. Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. "That's why you don't run," Mara whispered. "The town doesn't chase, it absorbs." A sleeper turned its gaze toward Ethan again. "You're restless," it said. Ethan felt pressure behind his eyes, like hands pushing from the inside. Mara stepped subtly in front of him.
"He's marked," she said quickly. "Church blood." The sleeper paused, then smiled faintly. "So he is." The charm at Ethan's neck burned colder than ice. The feeding continued, carefully, quietly. People stepped forward one by one. Some trembled, some closed their eyes in relief. The sleepers fed sparingly, never enough to kill, never enough to satisfy fully. Balance. Ethan noticed Mara watching closely, not the sleepers, but the ground near the stone opening. "You know something," he whispered. Mara hesitated. Then she spoke, barely moving her lips. "I was taken there," she said. "Below." Ethan's chest tightened. "When?" 3 years ago, she replied. "I volunteered, thought I could trade myself for my brother." Ethan looked at her wrists again. "What happened?" "They tested me," she said. "Blood, memory, fear." She swallowed. "I wasn't useful enough." Ethan stared. "They just let you go?" Mara shook her head. "No, they couldn't keep me." She finally looked at him fully. "Because I don't taste right," she whispered. "Because something in me doesn't belong to them anymore." Ethan frowned. "What does that mean?" Mara's gaze drifted toward the sleepers. "It means," she said softly, "I'm proof the rules can break." The ground pulsed beneath them. Once, twice, something deeper shifted. Mara's eyes widened. "They're waking too many tonight," she breathed. "This isn't normal." Ethan felt it then, the hunger radiating outward, heavier, louder, like Blackwood had decided to take more than it was owed. The sleeper with amber eyes turned fully toward Ethan. "Step forward," it said. The words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. Ethan's feet moved before his mind agreed. Mara grabbed his sleeve. "Don't!" Ethan looked at her. "If I don't," he whispered, "they'll take someone else." Mara's jaw clenched. Ethan stepped into the basin. The ground was warm now, alive. The sleeper approached, studying him with open curiosity. "Cross blood," it murmured, "still diluted, still useful." It reached out. Ethan braced himself, but instead of pain, he felt recognition. A flood of images crashed through him. Blackwood starving in 1791, his grandmother standing in this very clearing, a promise made with shaking hands. The sleeper withdrew, startled. "You carry more than blood," it said. The other sleepers turned, interest sharpened, dangerously. Mara shouted, "Ethan!" The ground convulsed. A deep crack split the basin. Smoke surged upward, thick and choking. The lanterns flickered wildly. Something below roared, not hungry, but angry. Too many rules broken, too much memory stirred. The feeding grounds began to collapse. "Run!" Mara shouted. Rules shattered. They bolted as the forest erupted with movement. Shadows twisted, trees groaned, the ground split behind them, swallowing lanterns whole. Mara grabbed Ethan's hand and yanked him down a narrow side trail, one not marked on the map. Smoke thickened, obscuring everything. Ethan coughed, lungs burning. Ahead, a faint orange glow flickered. Fire. Real fire. The old coal trail vent. Mara slammed her shoulder into a rusted door hidden in the hillside. It gave way. They tumbled inside as the forest screamed behind them, not with voices, but with shifting stone and collapsing earth. The door slammed shut. Darkness swallowed them. For a long moment, there was only their breathing. Then, a slow, deliberate knock echoed from the other side of the metal. Once, twice, 13 times. A familiar voice seeped through the door. "Running makes you interesting," Father Caldwell said softly. Mara and Ethan stared at each other in the dark and realized the worst truth yet. Blackwood didn't lose them. It let them go. Darkness pressed in from all sides. The coal tunnel was narrow, its walls reinforced with rotting beams and rusted metal plates. The air was thick with soot and old smoke, real smoke this time, burning Ethan's throat with every breath. Mara leaned against the wall, trying to steady herself.
That door wasn't supposed to open, she whispered. Ethan's heart still pounded from the run. You said follow the smoke. I said it was an exit, Mara snapped quietly. Then her voice softened. Not that it was safe. Behind the metal door, the knocking stopped. Silence followed. Not relief, anticipation. Ethan strained to hear something, anything. Instead, the tunnel answered. A low groan rippled through the walls, like the mind was settling or waking. Somewhere deeper inside, a faint scraping sound echoed. Not footsteps, something dragging. Mara's eyes darted into the darkness ahead. We can't go back, she said, and we can't stay here. Ethan swallowed. What lives in these tunnels? Mara hesitated too long. That depends, she said, on how hungry Blackwood is tonight. The charm at Ethan's neck twitched, tugging faintly toward the darkness ahead. Not pulling him back, forward. They moved deeper. The tunnel branched unexpectedly, paths cut by generations of miners and sealed with collapsing rock. Some passages were reinforced, others yawned open like broken mouths. Ethan's flashlight flickered, beams slicing through drifting dust. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Too many. But only two shadows moved with them. Mara stopped abruptly. Turn off the light. Ethan did. Darkness swallowed everything. The footsteps continued. Slow. Measured. Not running, not rushing. As if whatever followed them knew there was nowhere else to go. Ethan whispered, Is it Caldwell? Mara shook her head, though he could barely see her. No. The footsteps paused, then something else joined them. A wet, scraping sound, like fingers dragging along stone. Mara's breath hitched. Those are the things that follow. Ethan clenched his fists. What things? Not sleepers, she whispered. Leftovers. The charm in Ethan's chest burned colder, and then, right beside his ear, something exhaled. Not warm, not cold, empty.
The flashlights snapped back on. Something recoiled into the shadows ahead. Ethan caught a glimpse, just a fraction of a second, but it burned itself into his mind. Human proportions, wrong execution, too many joints in the arms, skin stretched thin, gray, like it had forgotten how to stay alive. Its eyes reflected the light, not red, not amber, but dull and hungry. It scuttled backward, moving on hands and feet both, disappearing into a side shaft with a sound like cracking knuckles. Mara swore. We woke them. Ethan's voice shook. What are they? Mara swallowed. People who didn't make the cut. The tunnel groaned again. More movement echoed now, multiple directions. They were fed on wrong, Mara continued. Too much taken, or taken too often. Blackwood doesn't waste them. Ethan stared into the darkness where the thing had vanished. Then what are they used for? Mara looked at him. To hunt, she said. A shrill cry rang out deeper in the mine, answered by another and another. Ethan felt the sound vibrate in his bones, like something tuning itself to him. The charm flared. Not pain, recognition. The creatures were listening. Ethan staggered. The tunnel tilted violently. Mara grabbed him. Hey, focus! His vision swam with flashes not his own. Caldwell walking these tunnels decades ago. Men dragged screaming into the dark. The sleepers watching without interest. Ethan gasped. I can see them. Mara froze. See who? The tunnels, Ethan said, breathless. The past. It's overlapping. The charm at his chest lifted slightly, pulled by nothing visible. Mara stared. That's not supposed to happen. Another cry echoed closer now. Ethan clenched his jaw, forcing himself upright. They're tracking me, he said. Not you. Mara shook her head. No, they track fear. Ethan looked up at her. Then that's why they're confused, he said quietly. Mara blinked. What? Ethan realized something terrifying. The pounding in his chest wasn't fear anymore. It was anger, a deep inherited fury, ancient and sharp. The tunnel lights flickered as the creatures crept closer. Ethan stepped forward. Stop, he said aloud. The word echoed unnaturally, stretching, warping. The scraping stopped. Maris stared at him. The tunnel felt smaller with Caldwell standing in it. Not physically. Authority did that. It bent space around him. "You don't belong down here," Mara snapped, backing toward Ethan. "This is beneath the church." Caldwell smiled. Everything in Blackwood is beneath something. The shadows behind him shifted, restless. Ethan felt it again, that pressure behind his eyes, that pull in his chest. The creatures weren't just listening, they were waiting. Caldwell took one more step forward. "Tell them to come," he said calmly. "See what happens." Mara hissed, "Ethan, don't!" But Ethan raised his hand. The motion felt natural, familiar. "Stop," he said again. Not loud, not shouted. The word carried. The shadows froze. The scraping halted mid-motion, claws hovering inches from stone. Even the tunnel seemed to hold its breath. Caldwell's smile faltered, just slightly. "Well," he murmured, "that's new." Ethan's heart thundered, but his voice remained steady. "Go back," he said. The command echoed, not in sound but in pressure. The things that followed recoiled. One by one, the shadows retreated into the side tunnels, melting into darkness like oil pulled into cracks. Silence returned. Mara stared at Ethan, stunned. "You didn't just scare them," she whispered. "You overrode them." Ethan lowered his hand, shaking now. "I didn't tell them to run," he said. Caldwell exhaled slowly, like a man recalculating a chessboard. "No," he agreed. "You told them to obey." Caldwell began to clap again, softly. "Fascinating," he said. "Your grandmother never reached this stage." Mara snapped. "Then why didn't you kill him?" Caldwell's eyes flicked to her. "Because killing him would be a waste." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Tell me the truth." Caldwell studied him for a long moment. Then he gestured down the tunnel. "Walk with me," he said, "if you want answers." Mara grabbed Ethan's sleeve. "This is a trap." Caldwell chuckled. "Of course it is." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. They moved deeper into the mine, past collapsed shafts and rusted carts. The walls here were smoother, carved deliberately rather than mined, purpose-built. They reached a chamber larger than the others. The walls were lined with doors.
Old iron doors, each marked with symbols and names scratched deep into the metal. Ethan recognized some. Cross, Blackwood, Caldwell. "These tunnels," Caldwell said, "are not for escape." He placed a hand on one door. "They are for storage." A low sound came from behind the door. Not banging, breathing. Ethan's stomach twisted. "Storage for what?" "For promises that didn't age well," Caldwell replied. "For bargains that went wrong." Mara's voice shook. "You keep people down here?" Caldwell shook his head. "We keep roles down here." He turned to Ethan. "When a bloodline produces something unstable," he said, "we lock it away." Ethan stared at the door bearing his family's name. "And what happens," he asked, "when something like me shows up?" Caldwell smiled thinly. "Then we decide," he said, "whether to crown it or cage it." Mara backed away from the doors, breathing fast. "That's what you tried to do to me," she said, "isn't it?" Caldwell's expression softened, not with regret, but nostalgia. "You were never meant to be down here," he said. "You slipped through." Mara laughed bitterly. "I survived." Caldwell nodded. "Barely." Ethan turned to her. "What aren't you telling me?" Mara's jaw tightened. "They didn't just test me," she said. "They changed me." Ethan felt a cold knot form in his chest. Mara lifted her hand, and for a brief moment, the lantern light bent around her fingers, warping the shadows. "I can feel them," she whispered. "The tunnels, the sleepers, the town." Caldwell watched with open interest. "You're becoming something inconvenient," he said. Mara met Ethan's gaze.
"I think Blackwood tried to make me a door," she said, "and failed." The ground trembled faintly, as if in agreement. Caldwell sighed. "Which is why she can't leave." Ethan stepped between them. "She's not yours." Caldwell raised an eyebrow. "She's Blackwood's," he corrected, "just like you." Caldwell straightened his robe. "This doesn't need to end violently," he said. He turned to Ethan. "You can replace me." The words hung heavy in the air. Mara spun. "What?" Caldwell's eyes never left Ethan. "The church needs a living voice," he explained. "Someone the sleepers recognize, someone the town obeys." Ethan shook his head.
"You want me to become you?" Caldwell smiled. "No, I want you to become better." He gestured around them. "End the hunts, control the feedings, keep the balance." Mara laughed sharply. "You call this balance?" Caldwell ignored her. "Your grandmother almost accepted," he continued. "She lacked conviction." Ethan felt anger surge. "She was terrified." "Yes," Caldwell agreed softly, "but she was also kind, and kindness is inefficient." The tunnel rumbled. Shadows stirred again at the edges of the light. "Choose," Caldwell said. "Take the mantle or force Blackwood to choose for you." Mara grabbed Ethan's hand. "Don't believe him." Ethan closed his eyes, and in the darkness behind his eyelids he saw the town, hungry, waiting. Ethan opened his eyes. "No," he said. Caldwell's smile faded. "I won't cage people," Ethan continued. "I won't manage suffering and call it mercy." The tunnel shook harder now. "You misunderstand," Caldwell said coldly. "This isn't about what you want." Ethan stepped forward. "It is now." The charm at his neck cracked. A thin fracture split the silver thorn. Energy surged, not outward, but downward. The tunnels responded. Doors rattled. Something behind one of the iron doors screamed, not in pain, but in relief. Mara gasped. "Ethan, stop!" Caldwell's composure broke for the first time. "What are you doing?" he demanded. Ethan's voice dropped, resonant. "I'm listening," he said, and Blackwood answered. The ground split, not violently, deliberately. A fissure opened between Ethan and Caldwell, glowing faintly with heat and smoke. Caldwell staggered back. "You don't know what you're unleashing," he warned. Ethan met his gaze. "I know exactly what you locked away." The fissure widened. Shadows poured upward. Not the followers, not the sleepers, but something heavier, older. The tunnels groaned like a throat clearing after centuries of silence. Mara pulled Ethan back. "We need to go, now!" Caldwell retreated into the darkness, his voice echoing back. "This town will not let you go, Ethan Cross." The chamber began to collapse. Dust rained down. Ethan and Mara ran. Behind them, the iron doors tore loose from their hinges. Something stepped out. Something that remembered its name. The tunnels spat them out behind the old rail depot. Ethan and Mara collapsed onto cold gravel as the hillside behind them sealed itself, stone grinding back into place like a jaw closing after a bite. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Blackwood screamed. Not one scream, many. Shouts carried through the trees, followed by the sharp crack of breaking glass. Somewhere downtown, a car alarm wailed and then died abruptly. Mara pushed herself up, coughing. That wasn't supposed to happen. Ethan's ears rang. His vision still shimmered with afterimages of the tunnels, doors tearing loose, shadows stepping free. "What did I let out?" he asked. Mara didn't answer right away. She stared toward town, where lights flickered erratically, some going out entirely. "Something the sleepers buried," she said. "Something that remembers being human." A deep vibration rolled underfoot, subtle but spreading. The ground wasn't breathing anymore, it was shifting. They moved cautiously toward Main Street. Blackwood no longer pretended to be normal. Doors slammed as people barricaded themselves inside. Others stood frozen on porches, staring down at the ground as if listening for instructions that never came.
A man clutched his head near the diner, rocking back and forth. "It's too loud," he muttered. "It's never this loud." Ethan felt it too, a pressure in the air, like overlapping heartbeats pounding out of sync. Lanterns along the street guttered, flames bending sideways. Mara winced, pressing a hand to her temple. "They're panicking." "Who?" Ethan asked. "The sleepers," she said. "They feel the imbalance." A church bell rang, but stopped after only 5 chimes. People noticed. Fear rippled outward. Ethan realized something chilling. Blackwood didn't just feed on blood, it fed on certainty. And tonight, certainty was bleeding out. A figure stepped into the street ahead, then another, and another. The sleepers no longer hid, they moved openly now. Pale faces reflecting the lantern light, eyes scanning the town with irritation rather than hunger. One of them stopped near a storefront window and tilted its head. "The rhythm is broken," it said aloud. A woman nearby gasped. The sleeper turned toward her, surprised. "You can hear us?" She shook her head violently. No, I just..." The sleeper frowned, as if confused by its own mistake. "Too thin," it muttered. Ethan felt the pull in his chest again. The sleeper's gazes slid toward him one by one. Recognition sparked, then tension.
"You," one said. "You disrupted the grounds." Mara stepped forward. "You lied to them," she snapped. "You said balance meant safety." Another sleeper hissed softly. "Balance means survival." Ethan met their eyes. "And how long," he asked, "before survival becomes extinction?" The sleepers went still. They weren't used to being questioned. The church doors burst open. Father Caldwell staggered onto the steps, no longer composed. His robe was torn, ash smeared across his sleeves. "Inside!" he shouted to the sleepers. "Now!" They ignored him. Caldwell's eyes flicked to Ethan. "You did this," he snarled. "You destabilized the covenant." Ethan stepped closer. "You built it on lies." Caldwell laughed bitterly. "I built it on necessity." He raised his hands, and nothing happened. No response, no obedience. For the first time, Blackwood didn't answer him. Caldwell's face drained of color. One of the sleepers turned slowly toward him. "You were a steward," it said coldly, "not a master." Caldwell backed away. "You need me." The sleeper tilted its head. "Did," it corrected. A crack split the church bell tower. Stone rained down. The bell fell silent. Mara cried out suddenly, dropping to one knee. Ethan rushed to her side. "Mara!" She clutched her arm as dark veins spread farther beneath her skin, branching like roots. "I can feel them," she gasped. "All of them." Her voice echoed just slightly. The sleepers turned toward her in unison. Interest sharpened. "What is she?" one asked. Ethan positioned himself in front of her. "She's not yours." A sleeper smiled thinly. "Not yet." Mara looked up at Ethan, eyes shining with something new. "Ethan," she whispered, "I don't think I'm breaking." The ground trembled again. "I think I'm changing directions." A gunshot cracked the night. A man on a porch lowered his rifle, hands shaking. "I'm not giving my family to you." Others followed his lead. Doors slammed open. Voices rose, angry, terrified, defiant. For the first time in generations, Blackwood resisted. The sleepers hissed, retreating instinctively. "Control is slipping," one warned. Ethan felt the pull intensify, not toward domination, but connection. He raised his voice. "This town doesn't belong to you," he said. "It belongs to the people who live here." Some nodded, others wept. The sleepers backed away toward the church. Mara stood slowly, steadier now. "They're afraid," she said softly. "Not of us." She looked toward the forest. "They're afraid of what's coming next." As the sky lightened toward false dawn, the earth groaned again. Not beneath the feeding grounds, beneath the town itself. Cracks spidered through pavement. Something old pressed upward. Ethan felt it, heavy, deliberate, aware.
"This isn't the sleepers," Mara said quietly. Ethan swallowed. "No," he agreed. "This is what they were hiding from." The ground split open at the far end of Main Street, smoke poured out, and a shape began to rise, slow, vast, and unmistakably awake.
The street split wider with a sound like tearing bone. Asphalt folded inward, swallowed by a widening fissure that glowed faintly from below, not with fire, but with a dull, ember-like pulse. The sleepers recoiled, not in anger, in fear. "That should not be awake," one whispered. Smoke rolled upward in thick waves, carrying a scent that made Ethan's stomach twist. Old iron, damp earth, and something animal. A massive shape pressed against the opening from below, not climbing, rising. The ground had not trapped it, the ground had grown around it. Ethan felt the truth slam into him all at once. "This town wasn't built over something," he said hoarsely. Mara nodded slowly. "It was built around it." The shape emerged further, still mostly obscured but undeniably vast. Its surface looked like packed soil and stone, threaded with veins of faintly glowing red. Not blood, memory. The sleepers backed away toward the church. "This is not ours," one said sharply. "This is the root." The word vibrated through the air. The root. The root did not roar. It listened. Ethan felt its attention brush against him, vast, slow, and impossibly old. His knees weakened as memories poured in uninvited, not his own. Blackwood, 1791, starving settlers kneeling in the mud, children crying, the winter refusing to break, then the ground opening, not violently, invitingly. The root had spoken then, not with words, but with need. "Feed me, and I will hold this place together." The sleepers had come later, caretakers, filters, a way to ration the hunger. They weren't the source, Ethan whispered. They were the solution. Mara swallowed. A bad one. The root pulsed beneath the town. "Feed me." Ethan clenched his jaw. "And when you're fed," he asked aloud, "what do we get?" The root answered, not in sound, but sensation, stability, continuance, a place that does not fall apart. Ethan understood the terrible logic. The root wasn't evil, it was infrastructure. Sunlight finally crested the hills. The first rays struck the street, and the sleepers hissed, recoiling as if burned. Their forms blurred, edges losing cohesion. "They can't stand exposure," Mara said. "Not because of the sun," Ethan frowned. "Then why?" "Because daylight makes things real," she replied, "and they exist best as half-truths." The root did not react to the light. It welcomed it. The glowing veins along its surface brightened faintly, like a body stretching after sleep. The sleepers watched in horror. "It will speak openly now," one warned.
"We kept it buried for a reason." Ethan stepped forward, ignoring the tremor in his legs. "You kept it buried so you could speak for it," he said. "So you could decide who paid the cost." Silence followed. Then something extraordinary happened. The root shifted its attention away from the sleepers and toward Ethan. Mara gasped sharply. Ethan turned just in time to see her stagger, then straighten. The dark, branching veins beneath her skin glowed, faint but steady. "I hear it," she whispered. "Not like before." Her voice layered, hers and something deeper, harmonized just beneath it. The root noticed her. Recognition flowed both ways. "You're a bridge," Ethan said quietly. Mara nodded, eyes unfocused. "I was never meant to be food." The ground beneath her feet stabilized, cracks sealing slightly as she stood there. The root fed through her, but not on blood, on connection. The sleepers backed away in alarm. "This changes the balance," one hissed. Mara looked at them calmly. "Good," she said. Father Caldwell crawled forward, desperation stripping away all dignity. "You can't let this happen," he begged Ethan. "The town will tear itself apart." Ethan looked around, at the frightened people, at the sleepers retreating, at the root awake and waiting. "The town was already tearing itself apart," Ethan said. "You just made sure it happened quietly." Caldwell shook his head.
You think this makes you a savior? Ethan met his gaze. No, he said. It makes me responsible. The root pulsed again. Feed me. Ethan closed his eyes. I won't give you bodies, he said. Not anymore. A pause. Then hesitation. The root had never been refused. What if I give you something else? Ethan continued. Memory, choice, shared weight. The ground trembled, not violently, but uncertainly. Mara stepped beside him, placing her hand on his arm. We can teach it to feed differently, she said. The root considered, and for the first time since Blackwood's founding, it waited. The morning fully arrived. Blackwood stood damaged but intact. Cracked streets, shattered windows, shaken people. But no bell rang, no signal came. People stepped forward hesitantly, looking to Ethan, to Mara. The sleepers withdrew into the church, diminished, no longer rulers, caretakers at best. Mara exhaled slowly. They don't know what to do without instructions. Ethan nodded. Then we teach them, together. The root settled, its presence no longer pressing upward, still there, still hungry, but listening. Blackwood wasn't free, but it wasn't owned anymore either. As people began to help one another, Ethan felt it again, that pull, not from below, from beyond Blackwood. The root stirred faintly, not hungry, alert. Mara stiffened. It's not over. Ethan nodded. No, he said. It just stopped being local. Far off beyond the hills, something answered, a resonance, like roots recognizing roots. Blackwood had been a test, and something else had noticed the result.
Blackwood did not wake all at once. It woke in layers. The street where the root had surfaced no longer cracked outward. Instead, the ground pulsed in slow, rhythmic waves, as if the town itself had developed a heartbeat. People felt it before they understood it. Windows rattled softly. Cups trembled on tables. Dogs refused to stop barking, staring at the earth with their ears pinned back. Ethan stood barefoot on the broken asphalt, eyes unfocused. The root was no longer just beneath him. It was aware of him. Its presence unfolded inside his mind, not as words, but as scale, vastness, age, patience measured not in years, but in geological eras. Mara stood beside him, breathing shallowly. It's fully awake now, isn't it? Ethan nodded. Yes, he said quietly, and it's not alone. He pressed his palm to the ground. The sensation was immediate and overwhelming. Across the continent, deep beneath cities and forgotten towns, other roots stirred, not rising, listening, waiting to see what Blackwood would do next. Blackwood had become a signal. The sleepers gathered at the edge of the street, no longer aloof, no longer superior. They looked small. You broke containment, one said, not accusing, observing. Ethan turned slowly. You mean I stopped pretending? A sleeper stepped forward, its voice hollow. You don't understand what we prevented. Then explain it, Mara snapped. The sleeper hesitated. Then, for the first time, it told the truth. We were never kings, it said. We were filters. Images bled into the air, like reflections on glass. Images, towns collapsing into sinkholes, rivers changing course overnight, entire valleys becoming uninhabitable. The roots stabilize land, the sleeper continued. They hold geography together, soil, water, pressure. And they feed, Ethan said. Yes, the sleeper replied. On life, on presence, on proof that the land is occupied. Mara's voice dropped. So you fed them people. We rationed loss, the sleeper said, or the land would take indiscriminately. Silence followed. Then Ethan said something that made even the root hesitate. You never asked if there was another way. Mara staggered suddenly. Ethan caught her before she fell. Her eyes weren't unfocused this time. They were elsewhere. I see it, she whispered, how it feeds. Ethan's chest tightened. Mara, it doesn't want bodies, she continued. Not really. Her voice layered again, hers and something older, deeper. It wants weight, she said. Presence, commitment, something that stays. The root pulsed beneath them, not hungry, curious.
Mara straightened slowly, pushing away from Ethan. "That's why I survived," she said. "I volunteered. I stayed. I didn't try to escape myself." The sleepers stiffened. "You are not sufficient," one warned. "You would become permanent." Mara nodded. "I already am," she said softly. Ethan felt panic rise. "Mara, no!" She turned to him, eyes gentle. "You were never meant to hold this alone." For the first time since 1791, the root spoke without intermediaries, not aloud, but clearly. "I hold what humans abandon. If I starve, the land breaks. If I feed too deeply, you break." Ethan felt tears sting his eyes. "So we've been killing each other to keep the ground stable?" he whispered. "Balance," the root answered. Mara stepped forward, kneeling. "What if we feed you differently?" she asked. Silence stretched. Then uncertainty. The root had never been offered choice. Ethan joined her. "What if you feed on memory?" he said. "On connection, on someone who stays willingly." The root's attention sharpened. Mara placed her hand on the earth. "I'll stay," she said, "so no one else has to disappear." The town shuddered, not in pain, in adjustment. Ethan understood the final truth too late. If Mara anchored Blackwood, he could never stay. The root would bind to him next. Someone always had to leave. He stood slowly. "Mara," he said quietly. She looked up, already knowing. "You're the only one it trusts," she said. "And you're the only one who can live like this," he replied. Her smile trembled. "You'll disappear from my life," she whispered. Ethan swallowed hard. "You'll disappear from everyone else's." They held each other as the town watched, not romantically, not dramatically, like survivors clinging to the last piece of wreckage. The ground sealed fully beneath Mara. She did not sink. She did not vanish. She became fixed, present. Ethan stepped back. Every step away felt heavier. Some sacrifices weren't violent. They were lonely. Days passed. Blackwood adjusted. No bells rang. No rituals resumed. The sleepers withdrew fully, diminished to watchers bound by daylight. People rebuilt what they could. They spoke openly about what had happened. The root remained, hungry but controlled. Mara stood at the heart of town, unchanged and unaging, aware of every footstep, every argument, every laugh. She was not worshipped, she was respected. Ethan left quietly, not because he was told to, because staying would have been selfish. Months later, Ethan drove west. News reports whispered of strange tremors that stopped before becoming disasters. Towns that should have collapsed didn't. The network had weakened, not broken. Time had been bought. Ethan carried the knowledge now, a responsibility heavier than fear. He passed another forgotten town and wondered how many others were still feeding in secret. Far beneath Blackwood, the root pulsed steadily, fed, balanced, aware. It had learned restraint, but it had also learned possibility, and across the land, other roots listened, waiting, because hunger adapts, and sacrifice teaches monsters what to expect. Blackwood survived by changing the cost. The world survived by pretending it wouldn't have to pay it too.
Before you go, look around the room for a moment. The story may have stopped here. If any of these stories stayed with you, you're not alone. Comment below the moment that made you pause, the part you can't stop thinking about, or the timestamp that felt too real. And if you don't want to face nights like this alone, subscribe now. New true horror stories every night, longer, darker, and closer to home. Turn off the lights, keep the volume low, and check your surroundings one last time. Good night.